Thank you for tuning in to the Keeping It Real with KC podcast, a no judgment zone podcast that covers lifestyle, entertainment, news, and sports. Even though KC doesn't watch sports, but these are minor details. By the way, he reads tarot cards too. Yes, I really mean it. He reads tarot cards too. And now, the host you've tuned in for, KC Phoenix.
Welcome back to the Keeping It Real with KC podcast. I, of course, am your host, KC Phoenix. All right. Yeah, this story breaks my heart. I really didn't. Give me a second. I got to turn off my little space heater for those who are watching, because my other heat is going. The central heat is going. Okay. So this cruise line, I hope they can bounce back or something works out. I did a story on the Crystal Cruises situation where the ship owed millions of dollars in fees. And what they did, because the judge had issued an order to seize the ship, and they changed course. They diverted the ship to the Bahamas instead of going back to the U.S. Well, it seems that the feds went to the Bahamas and got the ships, is what happened. So here we are. Before I go any further, KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. This podcast is carried on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Overcast, Bullhorn, Amazon Music, Audible, and several other podcasting platforms. Please feel free to listen to this podcast on whatever platform is most convenient for you. And on Spotify and on YouTube, obviously you can watch the video that I'm doing right now. Let's go ahead and get into this. I'm using the New York Post as the source on this story that I plan on reading. It says, disgraceful end, luxury cruise ships seized by feds in Bahamas. All right, it says a luxury cruise ship operator is underwater. Okay, I get the pun. And has left passengers high and dry. Yeah, honestly, if you listen to my other story, the passengers were not. First of all, for those who are not familiar with Crystal Cruises, if this is your first time finding out about all of this, if you're on a Crystal Cruises ship, you have the resources to handle whatever you need to handle, for the most part. If you don't have the resources to handle whatever you need to handle, you shouldn't be on a Crystal Cruises ship. Will it be inconvenient? Yes, but we're talking about tickets that are several thousands of dollars. Crystal Cruises is the ultra, like Crystal Cruises, Silver Sea, what was the other one? Asmara, whatever the one Celebrity came out with, Seabourn, even I would maybe Windstar, kinda, but there's certain cruise lines that are truly luxury cruise lines. And no, Holland America is not a luxury cruise line. I don't care what anyone says. But, and not even Celebrity Cruises. Celebrity Cruises is upscale, but it's not luxury. Crystal Cruises, Silver Sea, especially those two, that's luxury. If something happens and it's like, oh, we're not going to our port, those type of people who buy those tickets usually have the resources. Just saying. But I digress. Let me get back to this article. U.S. Marshals seized a pair of popular cruise ships in the Bahamas on Friday on allegations that their Miami-based owner, Crystal Cruises, has failed to pay $4.6 million in fuel bills. Crystal Serenity and Crystal Symphony had only crew members on board, according to Cruise Law News. While hundreds of passengers faced bedlam after being hurriedly booted off the ships before the vessels were seized. What a dreadful, disgraceful end to a so-called luxury cruise line, tweeted Cruise Law News publisher and maritime attorney Jim Walker. A third ship, the Crystal Endeavor, the line's newest and most luxurious vessel, was seized in Argentina, Cruise Law News reported Saturday afternoon. The Serenity and Symphony dumped their passengers in Bimini last month before setting sail for the perceived safety of international waters. The passengers, some of whom expected to cruise on to California, were ferried to Fort Lauderdale and then left to fend for themselves. And then they talk about the tweet again. 5 hours in, we get off the ferry only to find all the luggage dumped everywhere, colors and numbers not together. Luggage falling down, no porters, and no crystal reps, none. Serenity passenger Alan Jeffrey Shulman wrote on Facebook. No one giving instructions. No one helping the older folks. It was a shameful sight. Fuel supplier Peninsula Petroleum Far East filed a complaint in Florida last month seeking an arrest warrant against the cruise ships under U.S. Admiralty law, the Daily Mail reported. The ships unloaded their passengers and hit the high seas after U.S. District Judge Darren Gales approved the warrant. It remained unclear how U.S. officials had the authority to seize the ships in the Bahamas, Cruise Law reported. It's not unclear. The United States. Duh. There's agreements in place. It's almost like extradition. And even if there isn't an extradition treaty, and I'm just talking about as in with individuals, obviously with property is different. But I'm not a licensed attorney, blah, 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 caveat, all that stuff, whatever. But one thing is with countries who have more resources, they can pull more levers. And there could have been something behind the scenes where people who deal with travel in the United States, like top officials, could have been like, you know what? If you don't let us come get these ships, you know how much tourism comes from the United States of America. We're just going to create a law or do something where our people can no longer come to the Bahamas, period. And do that. You would be surprised what goes on behind the scenes. So it isn't, well, how could they do that? Easily, they can do it because the United States has the resources. Just like other countries, and the United States isn't the only country, other countries have certain resources where they're like, hey, I'll use Russia as an example. When it comes to heating fuel and things of that nature, Russia, it's a major resource for Russia. So if it's something where Russia needs to negotiate and there is a country that depends on their heating, their fuel, their gas, their natural gas, then Russia has a leg up and can call the shots somewhat during the negotiation because they have the resources. Just saying. Common sense, but like one of my god sisters says, common sense isn't always common. Let me go ahead and get back to this. All right. Meanwhile, passengers aboard the Crystal Endeavor disembarked Friday as the ship was held in, this city I'm not familiar with. If anybody in Argentina is listening to this show, don't be mad. Ushuaia. I think that's right. Ushuaia, Argentina, by the country's maritime authority over some type of unpaid bill. Sea Trade Cruise News reported. The issue was resolved as of Saturday night, the site reported, and the Endeavor was allowed to set sail again en route to Uruguay. Or Uruguay. So, we're unable to comment on pending legal matters at this time. Crystal Cruises spokesman Vance Gillickson told the Daily Mail, Crystal Serenity and Crystal Symphony's voyages ended last month, and there are no guests on board. The officers and crew on board are being well cared for and staying in single accommodations, some of which are guest staterooms. We are making sure they are comfortable and able to enjoy the various amenities on board. Crew members have been paid per their normal schedules, and we are meeting and exceeding all contractual obligations. Crystal Cruises is owned by Hong Kong-based conglomerate Genting Hong Kong. Now, see, this is interesting because every time I forget the name of that real estate company, I keep on wanting to say Evergreen is Evergrande or whatever. There was a Chinese real estate company that failed to pay its bill. It defaulted on a payment. And it's like, I think, the largest real estate company in China. And then you have this Hong Kong based company. And even though Hong Kong is not part of China, it is part of China. It's kind of interesting. It makes you wonder. But yeah, I don't know. I already did my tarot reading on the economy. You can go to that and look at it. So yeah. But here we are. As for Crystal Cruises, my heart goes out to the people who were affected, and obviously the cruise line, because I wanted to go on a Crystal cruise one day. I really, really did. Obviously, I've been on Celebrity Cruises and Royal Caribbean cruises, but not Crystal Cruises. So I guess I'll have to set my sights on Silver Sea or something. That's all I have. Let me get going. I have other things to do. KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. This podcast is carried on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Overcast, Bullhorn, Amazon Music, Audible, and several other podcasting platforms. Please feel free to listen to this podcast on whatever platform is most convenient for you. KIRWKC on all the social media platforms. Until next time, be blessed.